they need to treat the citizens that they serve. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Everyone's had a chance to review the previous minutes, and there are no additions or corrections, so it's been approved as presented. The visitors will have a one communication presentation.
Good evening. Thank you guys for having me here. I would like to give you an update of what we've done over the past year. It has been a busy year, that's for sure. And my clicker doesn't work back. There it is. All right. One of the biggest things that we did this year was that Pettis County Joint Communications was the recipient of a $1.2 million grant for Next Gen services from the State 911 Advisory Board. That particular grant was earmarked specifically for funding of a next generation 911 call handling platform as well as call handling equipment. We were able to upgrade all of our call handling equipment within the center at no charge to Pettis County Joint Communications. And we are expected to go live with our next gen platform, currently slatted for December 15th. There's been some delivery delays on that, but once that is in effect, the location abilities that come with that service reduces the ability from 12 seconds to microscopic milliseconds of locating a caller based upon their wireless location. We'll also open up text to 911 as well as media exchanging. So this is something that is brand new to Pettis County, and it's catching up with where we need to be as far as 911 technology is across the country. We've also worked on the AED registry integration with 1 and 2 employees not aware of where an AED is located within their place of employment. We have partnered with PulsePoint and the Call to Care program, and we registered as many of the AEDs within the county as possible. We still have a few that we're still trying to track down. But what this will allow us to do is that as a 911 call is received and there is a prompt for an AED, right now, almost all of the calls we receive, the caller says, we don't know where they're at. The call takers don't know either. But with the registry and that integration, we'll be able to click a button and we'll be able to say, if you go to the east wall by the entry door, there is a green case, an AED is located there. So we'll be able to provide the callers with the instructions and how to obtain that AED. With that Call to Care program, we have started to develop public education initiatives, and we're working through getting more public education into the community regarding 911 and 911 services available here in Pettis County. But something that is huge to our call taking is, as far as our quality assurance, the accreditation standard is that we are be over 93% compliance with I8D standards, which is the International Academy of Emergency Dispatchers. And in EMS disciplines, across all measurable metrics, we exceed the 93% year to date. And that is of a 10% random review of all calls that we receive. Fire and law, there were no measurable issues, critical and major categories. There's still some area for improvement within moderate and the minor deviations associated with that quality. I'm trying to find the sweet spot for the clicker.
Time for a question?
Sure.
What's the annual cost for someone who does have an AED on site? What's the cost to them?
For the registry?
No, to maintain that unit and keep it in proper working order.
It varies based upon unit.
Okay. Like those pads and stuff.
The pads, the batteries, whether they choose to keep them in an alarmed box versus a non-alarmed box. There's a lot of different costs associated with that, and it's all going to vary based upon the models that they've chosen to go with.
Is there any way to offer those supplies at a reduced rate if they're purchased in bulk for county AEDs on this registry?
Potentially. I can look into that.
That would be good. That's why they would want to participate, because they can get their replacement stuff at a reduced cost, and that would be good for the county, would it not?
It would be. It absolutely would be. With the
Okay.
registry, we also have the option of including a point of contact for the AED. If a specific site has a person in charge of maintenance or monitoring the device, it will send them an automatic email of your pads are getting ready to expire, or your battery needs to be replaced based upon the age.
A lot of them are churches and stuff like that, and they're not really all up on that. Even some of the businesses that have them.
Right.
I just a thought.
The most difficult aspect of getting AEDs into the registry is a lot of the churches don't necessarily have a point of contact that we can call and talk to throughout the week. So it's coordinating that effort of getting somebody to the site to take the pictures and record the information from the AED.
Does the fire department not visit each of those places annually for fire inspection?
The information in the registry is not something that was previously collected. We are working on forms to include that on their
Could the fire
inspections.
department not make one more little note while they're visiting?
That's what we're working on. We've got that form, been working with Chief Irwin and Jacob Harper to include that information on their inspections.
Thank you.
So our call volume, I've got 2024 and 2025 to date. The date that these numbers were pulled was actually November 1st. So right now for administrative calls, we are approaching what would be established from the 2024 time period. I am not anticipating that there would be a significant increase in the administrative calls for 2025 over 2024. However, there's going to be an increase of 911 calls in that same time frame because these numbers were pulled November 1st. There were still 2 months left in the year for them to be calculated, and we were already within 1,600 calls for all of 2024. So the 911 calls are increasing. Administrative calls, I would anticipate would remain on average. I thought I found the sweet spot in the clicker.
Oh, 912.
Thank you. The average answer time. The National Emergency Number Association has established very specific standards as to what an appropriate benchmark would be for an answer time. The benchmark for a 911 call is that 90% of your calls be answered within 15 seconds. And administrative calls, that 80% of those calls be answered within 15 seconds. So slight variation between the 911 and the administrative calls. For 2023, 2024, and 2025, we have met all of those standards across the board. With a 3.9 to a 4.1 answer, average answer for 911 calls, there will be deviations in those numbers because there are outliers. Calls that potentially rang longer that will affect those, but you're also seeing a reflection of an increase in call volume. It takes approximately 3 seconds for a call to ring one time. This number starts measuring at the point that that call is delivered to the 911 center, just as that call is ringing. So it will never be below 3 seconds. So takes 3 seconds for the call to ring one time with a 3.9 to 4.1 average answer time on that. It's just after that ring has cycled through that we're getting those calls answered. So one ring, that's our average answer. And we're doing that 97.93% of the time. This is important to know because there are centers in the state of Missouri that have a 30-second average answer time. But not us.
That's good.
It's excellent. It's absolutely excellent. I can't imagine how I could ask it to be any better. Right? Thank you. An abandoned rate. An abandoned call is a call that rings into a 911 center, and for whatever reason, it is not answered. It may not be answered because the caller hung up, because it was an accidental dial. It may not be answered because it was an overwhelming time during the 911 cycle. The National Emergency Number Association has established a benchmark of 12% of all your calls may be considered as abandoned, and it's still an acceptable level of service. With a 8 to 11% abandon rate, it's considered better service. Less than 5% of an abandon rate is considered excellent service, according to NINA. With our 911 calls, we have 4.21% abandoned in 2025, and administrative is 2.44 for an abandon rate. That number will never be 0. And that number will never be 0 because it also includes the people who accidentally dial, they look down, they see 911 on their phone, and they hang up. Activity by venue, something that I get asked a lot, are where are these calls coming from? So we've been able to separate calls based upon where the caller is located at the time that the call is placed. For reporting purposes, we separated it to Sedalia and Pettis County. Again, for 2024 and 2025, Pettis County is exceeding the 2024 numbers. Sedalia is down slightly. Right? And activity by venue and source. Source can apply to an administrative call, a 911 call, but we're also responsible for field responder activity called in by the radio. That's why radio sources have been included within this metric. So for Pettis County in 2024, we had the majority of our activity handled by the radio. And in 2025, that's shifting just a little bit. And we're seeing more administrative calls, we're seeing more 911 calls. And as the responders are staying busier with that public-driven call for service, their radio-initiated activities are decreasing slightly. Next slide. And the same thing for the city of Sedalia. The city of Sedalia has a front desk option that is included on their metric, and that is people that have just walked into the police department requesting service. That is a very microscopic number compared to the other sources that they may work with. Right? All right. Our 2026 question? Okay. Our 2026 budget proposal. It is that time of year again where we are in budget season, and what we're looking at for 2026, Brian? Our ratio of expenditures Keeping your salary and benefits below 80%. Our ratios for 2026 is proposed to be 29% as supplies and equipment and 71% in salary and benefits. And how that plays out as far as salary and benefits, we have just over 254,000 in benefits. That would include everything from medical and retirement options that are provided by the county as their employer. We have 510 and some change for operational staff, and then we have 114 for administrative and support staff. Supplies and equipment. Supplies and equipment had a significant reduction in expenditures from 2025. We were able to negotiate various cuts to our expense lines through the local 911 board. We have, our biggest expenditure is going to be contractual services at $310,000. That would be our lease for the basement of City Hall, our lease agreements for the radio systems. That would also include our contractual obligations to Priority Dispatch, as well as our county insurance and work comp insurance. You'll notice that the equipment and repair is one of the smallest expense lines. That's just over $5,000 for the year. We have no new equipment purchases planned for the year. That doesn't mean that there's not need, but we cut all of those out so that we can make the budget more manageable for the contributing agencies. Yes, sir.
Can you back up one slide? I got something sitting on
right.
my- If we take the yellow part and we add it to the operational staff part, we get like what, 616,000, 615,000? And then the benefits is 254, is that 54 or 84?
254.
So that's like, what, 40%? What all is in those benefits that constitutes 40% of your expense? I'm just curious.
Included in the benefits is the county employee retirement funds, the local area government employee retirement system, medical, basic life insurance, Medicare, and Social Security.
So as a percentage, let's just agree, 40%. How's that compared to our cost of benefits when we look at our wages and administration? 40% just seems to me to be a little higher than average. I'm not sure. I'm just curious.
With our benefits, the surf and loggers are contractual.
Loggers, I'm with you.
Yeah.
There you go. That explains it. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. With our supplies and equipment, the equipment is the lowest fund line item that we have included, just because that was the easiest place for us to make cuts from. Everything else is going to be dependent upon contracts and agreements that we are legally obligated to hold to. Right? Our proposed revenues. This is an increase from 2024. The proposed revenues for the any device and prepaid devices, those are taxes collected from the Department of Revenue that are funneled to Pettis County Joint Communications. Those numbers are very stable. There's not a lot of movement in them. We are requesting an additional $58,000 beyond the base. So the total that I would be requesting from PCAD is $208,000 for the year of 2026. That would include the base amount and the projected overage and a third of that overage, as the original contract was written, that it was divided equally amongst all three contributing entities. We'll be requesting $358,000 from the city of Sedalia and $258,000 from the Pettis County Commission. The only modification to these numbers since the original budget was presented, there was some change associated with that number because I had configured a hard division. The county commission requested that number be rounded to an even number. It's the only modifications that we've made. Ryan? For 2026, we are looking at more efficient call handling procedures, reducing call processing times, and we are looking at an in-depth analysis of the call to dispatch efficiencies. How long it's taking us to process the call for service and then dispatch responders appropriately. We're going to continue working on employee satisfaction, recognition, and retention, strengthening our peer agency relationships and community engagement. Right? That is all that I have for you this year. Do you have any questions? No? All right.
Thank you.
I know that you guys won't be taking a vote tonight, but could I ask when you may? At some point in December?
Yeah, we're getting ready to put our budget.
I understand. All right, well, I will turn the clicker back over to Ryan, and unfortunately, I must leave. I have family coming in this evening for the holiday.
Public comment, there was none sent in, so we'll move on to the officers' report, chief's report.
All right, my report starts on page 4. The bi-weekly meetings are ongoing between us, Navigate, and Hollister, and the architects. Get to that. I got some stuff in there as far as where we're at as far as progress goes. The lease agreement between us and Windsor was signed on the 21st of last month, so that's all done. Call volume is Pettis County is currently 8,000, or well, as of the end of October, was 8,076, and Windsor was 1,023 for a combined total of 9,000. Vehicle maintenance repairs, preventative maintenance beyond what I texted you guys about as far as the mileages are here, pretty well on track. The EMT class started the 3rd, or it started the 3rd. Selection process is underway for paramedic school. We've already selected someone. We went to the Fall Leadership and Supervisors Conference at the lake. Myself, Eric Myers, and Joe Clemens attended the conference. It was a pretty good conference. I also went to the State Emergency Management Agency Conference. They had in Columbia. This year, their emphasis was on mass gatherings. They're preparing for the FIFA event in 2026. So they're anticipating there to be quite an influx of people throughout the entire state, not just Kansas City, but mainly along the rail lines, especially. We'll probably see an influx of people here. So on page 5, we got the heat maps. It's pretty well on par, still split fairly evenly. Page 6, incidents by location, and then closest facilities are top destination still, so that's Bothwell. Incidents by day and hour kind of gives you an idea of our busiest day, busiest hours. Right now it looks like Wednesday at 4 o'clock, and maybe Saturday at 4 o'clock. And then incidents by EMS unit, this just breaks down how many the calls that have been distributed to the ambulances themselves. Medic 13 is the busiest out of all of them. The Windsor trucks don't really account into this right now because it's not capturing that information because it's a different dispatch center. It's all coming from dispatch information. But we're working on getting that address so you get more accurate numbers overall. But staffing update, 4 EMTs have been hired and currently in orientation. And then new unit update, unit 11 is currently in North Carolina, getting remounted. 2 additional units, new builds ordered in 2023 are due to be delivered this next year. Don't have a firm month or time yet, but I would say within the next 6 months, we'll probably see it. And then we sat down and we nailed out the ambulance ordering schedule, which is on page 10. And this just gives you an idea of different rounds. And of course, right now we're still working off 2022 round 1, where we started ordering. Which unit 11 is going to remount, finish that round up, and we're going to start going to round 2, which is ordered in 2023, where you see 4 or 5 will get sent off. Hopefully this next year to get done. Go back up to page 9. This is just the call volume for October. It's down a little bit from last year still, but that's okay. We were pretty busy there for so long, so a little break's not that bad.
We'll see what happens there when we start frying turkeys this week.
Right. But nothing too out of sorts there. It's coming back up from our dip that we had last couple of months. If we go to this is page 11 and 12. This is just the update on where we're at with the station. I'm sure you guys have driven by and seen it. I believe they're going to start roofing next week. And then I believe they'll move on to siding after that, right?
Yeah, roof material, the first, starting with the roof on the 2nd and 3rd, and then flowing right into siding.
And you guys are still having regular meetings with Navigate
Every 2 weeks.
every 2 weeks, and they're happy with the way things are going.
So far, so good.
Okay.
I stopped in there a few days before the meeting I forgot to come to. And walked through there and took a few pictures and talked with them a little bit. I asked about the windows, when they were gonna come in, if we had a hang up on delivery time on the windows. No, everything's on time. So
I think
I'm
that
looking forward to getting the windows in, get the thing dried in. That's what I'm looking for.
But yeah, so far so good. I'm pretty satisfied with what I've seen out there so far. Navigate, they're the professionals.
Right.
They're satisfied. So, so I think it's going really well. So, but if you guys don't have any other questions, I think that's it for my report.
Are there any other questions from the chief? Not, we'll move on to the financial report.
Okay. Starts on page 15. We changed the title a little, but it's the same balance sheet. Same information, assets, liability, equity, year over year. The changes there, it's down, just right at $500,000 at the end of October compared to last year. Page 16 is the statement of revenues and expenses, also called the income statement. Again, same information, just different titles. We are up 287,000 over year for revenue. And then expenses are up 650,000. So, and then we also have our gain and loss on asset disposition, interest income, and rebate is all down. So that's where you get to your $500,000 deficit compared to last year. Any questions on any of that? Page 17 is the capital expense year to date as of October. You can see there, trucking along, getting pretty much everything. Unit 11, will it be here this? It won't be here this year.
No, it'll be probably the first part next time.
So then we'll roll that into next year's budget. Is that how we do it?
And then there's a couple other items that we are rolling into next year's budget. The grill for station 2 and 1. think that's it. And we have been working on the budget, we were just waiting on the last few insurance numbers like we do every year. So, we're real close on the budget. Page 18 is our budget analysis year to date. That is our actuals January through October compared to the budget January through October. So we still have a favorable variance on revenue. I did highlight the bank service charges. It's up slightly over what we have budgeted. It's 151%, but it's $1,700. So that's just kind of keep in mind when we do budget amendments. But that's probably gonna be one. Operating expenses, also a favorable variance, we're at 85%. Any questions on any of that? Okay, page 19 is the budget to actual details. The budget is the annual budget, so we should be at about 84%. At blah, 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 I can't talk, at the end of October. So same favorable variance there on revenue, or 89.9 on revenue. And then you can see when we get to details, there's a lot more that are over budget. Some of them are just timing issues, like the auto insurance, there was a refund. It'll still be slightly over budget, but it's gonna come down quite a bit. Facility improvements, that was the, what do you call it, sand trap?
Yeah.
Yeah, oil sand separator.
On page 21, to answer your question, Kim, our benefits as a percentage of our wages and salaries is about 23%.
That's what I thought
Wow,
that
that's
was.
half of
See,
theirs.
the difference is that loggers, and I'm glad we dodged that bullet, boys.
So, but that, I mean, that's kind of where we are in the budget. We'll see where it turns out to be, but we've been under budget slightly on all of those items: insurance, benefits, wages. Page 22 is the remainder of that. Any other questions on the details? Okay. Page 24 is sales tax year to date. We are up 33,000. We're just under 1%. We're at 0.89% increase, so pretty flat year over year. Page 25 is the bank balances as of November 19th versus the previous month. You can see there that cash is down 223,000 month over month, but year over year it's up 289,000 so far this year. Page 26 is the AP aging summary, and then the details follow on pages 27 through 28. Oh, this is out of order, but that's okay. We can come back to that. Pages 29 through 34 is the check register.
So what was this, film frat?
That's the education platform.
Okay, that's right.
We're gonna come back to the bills. We're gonna skip that for a minute. That's okay. I didn't realize it was out of order till just now. Page 35 starts our GE&T report. That's our Medicaid cost report. This has to be filed by the end of the month. I know some of you guys didn't want to see it, but I wanted you guys to see it just for transparency's sake. All the details. This is a fiscal year report, so you can't compare this back to those financials. They're not gonna jive. Because this is 7/1/2024 to 6/30/2025. So if you flip to page 48, this is kind of the settlement calculations. This is kind of where where it comes down to, what the results are. So if you look in the middle of the page there, it'll show you the total number of ambulance transports during this period of time was 8,047. The previous fiscal year was 6,880, so a pretty big jump between the two. And then the average cost per ambulance transport was $1,037. Previous year was $1,105. And most of that is that our expenses didn't increase more than our call volume did, basically. Our transports increased more to bring that cost down. And then you can see down at the bottom line 15, that's the net federal participation amount. So that's the net that we get from GEMT. I don't think it's gonna stay this 57,519. The state changed, for whatever reason, the way they do this year. They usually provide us the MMIS data, which is the Medicaid data, because that's what they have to, this report has to tie back to, is the MMIS data. This year they've decided we don't get that data till January, so we have to use what we have. So we did that, and that's why it's coming out at 57,519. I think once we get the MMIS data, that's gonna change.
Which direction do you anticipate it changing?
It'll go up. So this year, just for example, just to compare it to, for 6/30/2024, our net was 338,000. So yes, the cost came down some, but I don't think the reimbursement went up that much. So what we have is cash received, and this is based on when the trips are ran. So we might run a trip on 6/30/2025, but we don't get paid on that until at least 2 months later. So there's a timing difference in that. So without that data, there's no way to pull it back. So we're kind of waiting, and you've seen this in years past. We submit, they come back and say, we're making these changes. And most of the time the change is the call numbers and the revenue number, which is the most important portion of this whole report, as far as when it comes down to the calculation. So I'm just saying, this is what it says now, this is what we're gonna put in the budget, but I think it's gonna increase. So any other questions on that? Do you want to have? Okay, now we can go back to this bill on page 26. 26. Any other questions on any of those bills? If not, that will be the end of it. Or if you have any other questions.
I'd make a motion to pay the bill.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We have no unfinished business, new business, Station Creek patio roof.
I did have a question on, I noticed, Ken put out 33,000 on the drain. I think, what did they find when they got in there? I may have missed, I missed one meeting and you talked about it then.
So basically what happened is, once they dug everything up, our pipe that was supposed to go in the sewer went straight into gravel. So it was never tied into the sewer. So basically all the water that came from washing those trucks went down and then it just terminated into gravel. That's why we had all those backups all the time, and that's when they snaked it, they got all that dirt back all the time.
Okay, so
And
now.
that's the pipe that was there when we bought the building.
No, they'll put in after we.
Okay, so who put it in the last time? I'm just curious.
That's
Cause I'd like to badmouth them.
That's from back in the Gardner era when we first moved in there. I don't know.
And I tried-
who did it.
I talked to Roy, we tried to figure that out, who it was, because I mean, at the end of the day, right? They should have tied that into, I don't know, it'd be code violations, all kinds of stuff. that-
Yeah, whoever it is,
They
they
could've-
give you the tail light warranty.
Exactly, exactly, but we could never figure out who. I looked at some plans, tried to figure out some plans or something, but we couldn't figure out who did that.
Didn't we pay them?
We paid the gym.
We paid the general, and they don't know who they hired either. I
They might,
suppose.
but
I'd just be curious who that was. That's a dirty dog trick.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
On page 51, there was some pretty significant savings that we got from the tap fees for the sewer and the water. We anticipated, quite a bit more than what there was, and now we have $38,000 in savings. It came up in a conversation at one of our meetings. Initially, when we started planning the building, we had a covered patio, on the east side of the building. We made it a pergola instead to cut costs, because we were trying to get that cost of that station in the right ballpark. With it being so far under, we're asking if we can add that back to the plan to cover, like put a roof over the patio instead of the pergola, for a cost of not to exceed $32,837.
So that 33,000 is to convert a patio with a pergola to a patio with a solid roof.
Correct.
So it's an additional cost to what we already have invested in that patio. With the pergola, we've got X number of dollars, so you take that, add the 33,000 to it, divide it by the dimensions of the patio, and we get a cost per square foot. What would that be?
Well, I don't know that.
Seems pretty high to me.
I'm not sure what the square foot of the patio is. We have to figure that out.
Somebody figured it out because they gave us an estimate.
The estimate of $26,636.89 from the Hollister, but it doesn't say what the square foot is, so, I mean.
Well, they figured the labor and the materials, surely they gotta know what size roof they're building.
Well, I'm sure they did. I just don't know.
I mean, this is an addition to what we've already got in that patio with the pergola roof. So this is just simply an upgrade, and so add that to the other costs, suddenly, and it's an outside patio with a fence around it?
Yeah, pretty much. And a roof. I mean, well, put a roof over it.
So we've already got it figured with the pergola though. This is just. My inclination
So this
is
is-
leave it with the pergola.
I think some of the, you got $7,200 in there of design estimate and contingency to finalize the design. I mean, that's, something else that,
When I read the letter that said there, if you read the second paragraph, there's engineering analysis, because now we'll have a solid roof, so there's higher snow and wind loads. Was that not figured in the original bid for solid roof, the engineering? So this is, okay, and then look over here at the cost per hour for those services, and that's on top of the $26,000 for labor and materials and the subcontractor to install it, so that racks it up to, yeah. And then another 5,000 contingency to finalize the design. That's an expensive patio. And we're only doing it because we saved money, not because we really, how does that compare cost per square foot to the interior that we're building?
I can't speak to cost per square foot. I mean.
Well, I think we figured that out. You might be able to convince me, but right now, I'm not thinking this is a good use of money.
It was brought to us because that was what we initially planned on.
Right, and they said, we can do that because we save money over here, but that doesn't mean we gotta squander it.
Well, we're not squandering, no, but I just figured it was worth bringing up, because, pergola, it's not gonna keep rain off your head if you go out there. So
Don't go out there, it's raining.
there's that.
But I'm just looking at the cost per square foot, and it's not here, but I'm thinking it's a pretty high number for a patio. That's I'd just like to know the total cost per square foot, at least the cost per square foot to add the roof. I don't know what to divide that up, but.
Can we table it until we can take a look at that?
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, we don't have to make this decision right now, right?
No, I don't know necessarily on
Well,
for it. I mean,
Navigate can figure that out, that's their job.
I can have it for you tomorrow, but I can't have it for you right now.
Well, I know you can't, but if it's not that big a number, to me, I don't know what the number is, but when you're trying to justify it, I'm just looking at that cost per square foot. Look what it cost us per square foot not to put the drain in all the way. Now, it's cheaper to buy floor than it was to buy air. That's just me though.
This is in addition to what we already have. That's what I was gonna ask. So,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
This patio will have a barbecue grill.
Mhm.
Yep. So it seems like a pergola would be better for the smoke to go up instead of staying in.
Does this include the fan that we're gonna put under there because the air gets trapped under the solid roof?
I think there was a ceiling fan already included in the pergola.
Okay. Thank you.
You want to table it till we get further?
I would make a
explanation?
motion to table this.
Second. All in favor of tabling it until we get a better explanation of the cost, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Health insurance.
You got a little bit of time left to present yet.
Ambulance remount.
All right, that is on page 56. In order to keep us going as far as trying to stay on track of getting our trucks replaced in a timely fashion. This is 2 remounts, which will all be delivered in 2028. And for 426, 673, 44.
And so how much has this gone up since last time we sent some out?
So what we have for this year is 181, I believe. Back here. Yeah, 181, 443 is how much the last remounts and the next remount is.
So it's another,
It's about
60,
37,000, because it's 213.
Let's see, that'd be 10.
32,
32. I guess that
if
sounds
I
about-
went fast.
Yeah.
About 30% increase, isn't it?
And that locks in those prices
That's good.
because, with tariffs and stuff, we don't know what might happen next couple of years.
Yeah, that's guaranteed till 2028.
Well, if it went up 30%, I think we better lock it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see it coming down. Do you?
No.
I moved that we, if you're looking for a motion, move that we accept this.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Resolution 2025-06, declare election candidate filing.
Who's up this time?
John and Kevin,
John and Kevin.
District 2 and 5. Take a motion to approve that resolution.
Move.
Second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Do we have any announcements? I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.